All right, it looks like I am going live here for the inbound.org Ask Me Anything. So I want to try something different. I'm not a prolific typer. I get I don't want to write a bunch. I don't want to type a bunch. It's not my style. I hire people to write stuff. And so what I'm going to do is do what I do best, which is talk. So right now I'm looking at the inbound.org thread. I want to go through and look at the questions you guys have posted up there for me. And I'm just going to talk about them a little bit. And since this is a Hangout on Air, you guys will be able to click play on this video at any time in the future. And you're going to be able to, watch the answers. So, it'll be a different kind of content play. I know inbound.org is all about experimentation, and I think they'll have fun seeing the results of this. So let's see if it works. It might not, but hey, you got to try stuff. So I'm just going to dig in here. I've already got a handful of questions that have been written, and I'm sure more will come in as the time progresses here. But the first one comes from Dr. Gil Letterman. And first he says he's looking forward to the AMA, so I'm excited about that. I was looking forward to it as well. It should be fun. All right, his question. He says, in the Definitive Guide to Growth Hacking, you and Neil spoke about LOPA, L-O-P-A, leveraging other people's audience. This is one of the more powerful but hard to use tactics in day-to-day marketing. Other than the easy ones you guys mentioned, what's the best LOPA for you currently, not including this AMA? May as well take the easy win away. Yeah, that's true. This is obviously an example of LOPA, leveraging other people's audiences. Yeah, I mean, one of the best ones that we've used and that still give us ROI to this day, even though it took place some months ago, is something that Mike Hardenbrook implemented with Growth Hacker TV. He reached out to Ryan Holiday and he reached out to Penguin Press. Penguin is a big book publisher. And he basically created a partnership where, we promote the book and we promote Ryan and that kind of stuff. And in return, they actually put our promo code for Growth Hacker TV in the back of the book. So everyone that bought Ryan Holiday's book, Growth Hacker Marketing, they were actually given a promo code in the book to get, a free month or something like that to Growth Hacker TV. And if you think about it, it's kind of a perfect example of leveraging other people's audiences. Ryan has a huge audience. Penguin has a huge distribution system. And it was really tightly integrated in the sense that the people buying Growth Hacker Marketing would be the exact audience that we want for Growth Hacker TV. So it wasn't like we were creating a partnership with a group that wouldn't be interested in us. And so it kind of had all the makings of a perfect storm. And so that's the best example probably of LOPA that we've used. But I actually do think you're right. This is one of the more powerful tactics, and it can be the more hard to use. It's not like go buy ads, because then you just think, well, is it Google, is it Facebook, is it Twitter ads, or do I want to go to some other marketplace? But there's kind of a very limited number of choices. It's not like there's 1,000 ways you can buy ads on the internet. But when it comes to creating partnerships and leveraging other people's audiences, there really is 1,000 ways you can do it. The value proposition isn't set in stone. You get to come up with the value proposition. You get to reach out to somebody and say, hey, if you do this and I do this, it could work for both of us. Let's leverage each other's audiences. Let's see what we can make happen here. And so really, it's a lot about creativity. That's why when it comes to partnerships, it helps if you have somebody that really does, to use the cliche, think outside the box and can imagine what a partnership might look like. You need somebody with a lot of empathy. They have to be able to put themselves in the other person's shoes and think, what is going to bring value to them? Not just what am I going to get value from? And that's the real thing about leveraging other people's audiences. Leverage in the technical sense, scientific sense, it's about, putting less effort and getting more from it. You're leveraging something. You think about a lever, you put the fulcrum in the right place, you can put a little bit of force, in the down motion, and you get a lot of weight being lifted if the fulcrum is close to all the weight, that kind of thing. And it's very much about making my work easier. It's very much about making my life easier, all those kind of things. But when it comes to LOPA online with marketing, it can't just be about you. It's got to be about both. It has to be about you and them. How do you both get value out of this relationship? Because they're not going to let you leverage their audience unless somehow they're leveraging your audience as well, or leveraging something that you bring to the table. So you got to be creative. You got to think very empathetically about the situation, so that you're not just thinking about what you want, but you're also thinking about what they want. And then, lastly, I would say try a bunch of stuff. I mean, reach out to a lot of people. There's so many audiences that could benefit from what you're doing, that it really is the situation where you have to just try so many things and try to leverage so many audiences that then eventually a few of them work out. I mean, I'll talk about Mike, creating that deal with Penguin. Do you think that was the first time he sent an email trying to get something going? Of course not. He sent probably hundreds of emails to hundreds of different people. And that one, it hooked for some reason. It worked. And so, you got to try a lot of stuff. So hopefully that answers your question, Dr. Letterman. If not, you can maybe write a follow-up here or whatever, and I'll try to get to it if I can. All right, let me actually refresh the inbound.org page. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. All right, good. Yeah, new stuff is coming in here. Cool. All right, this one is from Juha. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Juha Ikonen. And he says, exciting. Here's my question. Although growth hacking is much of a mindset, most strategies assume there is a large pool of potential customers, which often is the case in the B2C world. What is your best advice or resource to dig for a B2B SaaS solution marketer targeting not the most tech-savvy people and having low volumes but high-value deals? When I read a question like that, I think sometimes, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, I guess, is the thing that comes to mind. You're right. When it comes to some of the popular growth hacking stuff, B2B, is not the main thing talked about. And it's a lot of B2C stuff. It's a lot of, high volume of users, like you're saying, because if you have a lot of users, you can do certain conversion tricks, or you can do certain referral loop tricks, and you can really create big wins from doing that. But there's a lot of businesses that are B2B, and they don't have huge numbers of people that are, using the product, but the value of each deal is greater. Here's the thing, don't reinvent the wheel. If you have high margin, low number of customers, then we're talking about direct sales. We're talking about the stuff that businesses have been doing for hundreds of years. It means you build a relationship that's a little longer term. You might have to get on the phone with them. You might have to create something for them to show them why your solution is a unique fit. But you might have to build a sales force, but then you get higher margins, so it works. I mean, it's not like just because growth hacking exists that you have to use it no matter what business you're in. I would say there's obviously things you can do growth hacking related to help you, but you really have to think through what's a sustainable growth channel for your business, not what is a clever growth channel for my business. Who cares about being clever? I mean, honestly, end of the day, yeah, the clever stuff gets written about, the clever stuff gets remembered, but guess what? The clever stuff doesn't build billion-dollar businesses every time. Think about it this way. I'm always shocked when I hear about a new $100 million startup or a new billion-dollar startup that I've never heard of before. And I think, how is it that a company can be worth $100 million in an ecosystem that I'm pretty familiar with and I didn't hear about it? Well, it's because they're probably not doing anything clever. They're just crushing it day after day, doing stuff that works, and really, finding a way to create sales and generate value for themselves and others. And so I would say maybe think about direct sales, maybe think about a sales force, maybe look at what other companies in your situation have already done, but don't get caught up on being clever necessarily. I don't think that's what you need to worry about too much. And so hopefully that helps. It might not be the answer you were looking for. Beyond that, I would say, you hear a lot about the consumerization of the enterprise. We're seeing that the stuff that really takes hold in B2B, it has a consumer feel to it. I mean, I think about Box, Dropbox, and Box. I think about Slack, recently. And all those things are taking hold in the B2B world, and yet they have a very consumer feel to it. I mean, the Slack app on my phone, it feels like, not a B2B app. It feels like something very consumer friendly. So I would say, think about, what's working in the consumer world, see what applies, but don't worry about wholesale adopting it. Just worry about what's going to work end of the day. But you can definitely learn from consumer stuff. All right, next up here, we got William McKee. Let me actually refresh here again so I'm seeing all the new stuff. All right, got William McKee here. He says, hey, Bronson, I'm just getting familiar with the whole growth hacking movement. Lately, I've started seeing the term growth marketing being used. Do you think this is a legitimate form of marketing? If so, how would you define it for a general audience? Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the difference in growth hacking and growth marketing is. I would say, I probably use those two interchangeably personally. So let me do this. I'm not exactly sure what your question is. So here's the question I'm going to answer. Basically, what is growth hacking? And is it a legitimate form of marketing? So to me, growth hacking is essentially kind of the intersection of a handful of things. It's the intersection of product, it's the intersection of engineering, and it's the intersection of what we would consider traditional marketing. And so I'll kind of break that down a little bit. You know what a product manager is. They're the people just obsessed with the product, thinking about the product, figuring out the UI, the UX, the flows of signups and referrals, and the usage of the core functionality. So you have this person that's a product manager. And traditionally, a product manager has never been obsessed with growth, and that's okay. And then you also have, the engineers. And the engineers are building the product and writing the code. And traditionally, they've never been obsessed with growth, right? And what essentially is happening is you have someone coming in who is really taking product, and they're taking engineering, and then they're taking traditional marketing, the idea of let's get market share, let's go out there and get our name out there. And you're taking all three of those worlds and you're making them say, okay, how do we grow the user base using these three worlds? How do we retain our users using these three worlds? Using product, using engineering, and using what we already know about marketing. How do we create revenue with those three worlds? And that's essentially what growth hacking is to me and growth marketing is to me. Because when you start asking the question, how can we use the product managers and the engineers and the marketers to all be thinking about growth, that's when the really cool solutions really come to the surface. That's when you get things, the examples that everybody knows about, whether they're the best examples or not. That's when you get the Craigslist, Airbnb kind of stuff. That's the engineering working with the marketing to really come up with something that really worked with our product. All three of those worlds were super integrated to make that happen. And so I think that's where the most power comes from. And that's why I love what I'm doing right now with growthgeeks.com. It's our new startup where we're helping startups grow essentially. But one of the things I love about it is our engineers, they like marketing. They think about marketing. And when, me and Mike go to Lucas or Landon, and, it's not like, oh, here comes the guys trying to grow, even though we're trying to build product and write, code, and they're making us do some silly thing for, something growth related that we're not interested in. That's not the mindset they have, which is why it's so awesome. They have the mindset of, oh, it's something for growth. Let's bump it to the top of the list. Let's make it happen. And so everybody's working together with a growth mindset. And, at our weekly stand-up meetings, we talk about, all right, what do we need from product? What do we need from engineering? And what do we, need from marketing to really grow and take this thing to the next level? And so to me, yeah, I think that's a legitimate form of marketing. There's a place for traditional marketing, the 4 Ps of marketing: place, product, promotion, price, that kind of stuff. That's not going away. Traditional marketing is super important, but product is this powerhouse, and you can start using that along with the Ps of marketing. And then engineering, you can start doing these code-heavy solutions along with traditional marketing. And when those three worlds, and when those three teams, and when those three mindsets interact, that's when you get growth hacking. That's when you're able to take things to the next level, and you can really do things that other companies just can't do if they're stuck thinking about things in a traditional way. So I hope that answered your question, William. Yeah, I think growth marketing is legitimate. I think growth hacking is legitimate, depending on how you define it, and there's a number of definitions floating around. All right, next question is from Ibrahima Gabriel Mall. He says, hello, Bronson. Great to have you on board. Thank you for sharing your experience with all of us here. I wanted to know, what are the skills necessary to hack the growth of any startup company? How do you keep coming up with creative content to sustain the growth of it? And finally, if you had to make a growth hacker out of a simple marketer in 2 months, what would you teach him? Thanks in advance for your answer. All right, great question. Let me break it down here. First question he has is, what are the skills necessary to hack the growth of any startup company? I think there's a handful of things here. I mean, at the top of the list, I think about hustle, right? And what I mean by hustle is you have to have a lot of energy to grow a startup. You know, growing a startup doesn't happen when you put it on the back burner, when you say you'll get to it, if it's not the top of the list, if you don't have the energy to try different things over and over and over and over. Growth happens when someone's obsessed with it and has a ton of energy and just puts a lot of hustle behind it. So that's one. You know, I've heard people say before when they hire people, they look for two things, hustle and intelligence. And I tend to agree with that. Those two things can unlock a lot. You find somebody with more energy than average that also is more intelligent than average, and really cool things can happen. So first, I would say you need hustle. Second, I would say you just need raw intelligence. Without raw intelligence, it's pretty hard to do stuff, you know, with online growth hacking. Third thing I would say is knowledge of human psychology. The more you know about human psychology, the easier growth is. The less you know about human psychology, the more difficult growth is. So in reality, if you want to grow something, you have to know more about psychology than the average person, because you're trying to tap into the way people think and the way they behave and the way they interact with your product. And so often it's counterintuitive. But what you think should happen is not what will happen. But if you know psychology, then what you think will happen is what does happen. And so I would say those are important: hustle, intelligence, psychology. I would say having the mindset of a scientist, you know, looking at everything as an experiment, not getting caught up on everything having to work this time. This is the one, this is the thing that has to work, but really seeing it as, all right, what are the experiments today? Let's run through them as quick as possible. Some will work, some won't. That's fine. We're not going to cry over spilt milk. If you have the mindset of a scientist, I think that helps a lot. That it's an experiment, you're trying it, but your hopes aren't on this one growth thing you're going to do and hope that it works out. So I would say that's another one. Yeah, so I mean, I think those are some of the things that are necessary for the start of any company. And then I would say there's one that kind of trumps everything, though. And the thing that trumps everything is the product itself. I mean, you can do as much as you want around the edges. You can do as much as you want to try to grow something. But at the end of the day, if your product doesn't solve a real need, if it doesn't deliver real value, it doesn't really matter what else you do. You can build a really small company probably on marketing alone, but to build a real company, you know, $100 million company plus, like, it's not going to happen just on marketing, just because you know how to sell stuff really well. To build a real company, you got to be solving a real need. And so I would say the product kind of trumps everything, which means you got to have product in your repertoire there. All right, the next question you had was, how do you keep coming up with the creative content to sustain the growth of it? You know, you have to have the right people around you. You know, there's people that just have a knack for content and a knack for how to create it and a knack for what's going to resonate with people. And if you don't have that knack, you're just stuck asking the question, what's next? How do we do this? I'm stuck. But if you have somebody around you with that gift, you know, there's more ideas than time. And so they're not going to have those roadblocks. They're always going to have 5 or 10 new ideas on what they can do content-wise. So I would say get the right people around you on that one. And then lastly, you ask, if you had to make a growth hacker out of a simple marketer in 2 months, what would you teach him? I would feed him some psychology books. I would help him understand the basics of engineering and just what's possible online. I would make sure he understands the basic infrastructure of the internet, how APIs work, that kind of thing. I'm actually getting a call here. Let me hang up on that. All right. And so I would make sure that that they had those two things. And then what else would I teach if a marketer came to me? You know, it's hard because it depends on how much they know already. I mean, how much do they know about the way the internet works? You know, the more you know about the internet, just the more, you know, successful you're going to be. And so if they're truly a traditional marketer in the sense that they've been doing, you know, TV ad buys and TV commercials, and they don't even know what AMA stands for, you know, we got a long way to go. If by traditional you mean they're already familiar with all the digital marketing tools and they're trying to take it to the next level, then, you know, then we can focus on conversion rate optimization and psychology and, you know, some of the best tools to use and how to do email marketing and that kind of stuff. So it just really depends on where they're at. But I think I've answered enough there. All right, next question is from David Leonhardt. He says, maybe good to preface comments with your definition of growth hacking. Like most marketing terms, it seems to follow Humpty Dumpty's philosophy. Words mean what I want them to mean. You're absolutely right. I don't get caught up in semantics. You can call it whatever you want. But when I use the word growth marketing or growth hacking, I'm really talking about a couple different ideas. I'm talking about the intersection of product engineering and marketing. So I'm talking about when those three worlds come together, that's growth hacking to me. I'm also talking about a scientific mindset that you approach growth to. So let's say you're running an ad on Facebook. Don't just run an ad and hope that it works, or run a couple ads. Run it like a scientist would. Say, all right, I'm going to run this ad with these copies. I'm going to run the ad with these creatives. I'm going to run the ads with these combinations. Okay, I found the one that works the best there. Now I'm going to run that ad against these audiences. And you keep trying it over and over and over. It's an experiment. And so I would say it's product, engineering, marketing, all coming together. Secondly, it's thinking like a scientist. You do those two things. If you're running through a lot of experiments every day and you include product marketing, engineering, you're on the way to growth hacking. Some really cool things are going to happen. All right, Nicole Demir asked, what are some ways in which user-generated content can be used for mobile app growth? I think that's a tough question. I think about, the way I consume content, and, it's like I consume content through, in terms of mobile, how I consume it on mobile, and I consume it on Twitter on mobile. I consume it on blogs that have bookmark or blogs that are in a feed reader on mobile. And so it seems like you almost have to create great content that's mobile friendly and then link out early and often to your mobile download or to some hook in your mobile app. So that's the way I might, think about it, is maybe the same rules that would apply for creating content for the desktop or for, another kind of application, but just realizing that you have to link and get them into the app itself at some point. Because if you don't get them in the app, then you're not doing what you need to do, because the metrics around applications that are mobile are different than the metrics around desktop things. On the mobile, you're talking about daily active users and how many daily monthly users you have and what the retention of those are and how often they open the app and how early they open the app and how long they stay in your app. But if you are just giving them content and they're not ever getting into the app, then you got to bridge those two worlds. But I do think it's a little more difficult because, content still isn't super friendly on mobile a lot of times. Content still isn't as fast on mobile. Content still has a hard time linking to the app itself and making that a seamless experience, because then it got to open the app store and you got to download the app. And so, it's more difficult, but I would say use the existing rules and just make sure you're getting them to the app as quick as you can. All right, let me refresh here. See if I got any other questions coming in. It looks like those are the main questions. And so hopefully you guys got some value out of this. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed, just hearing maybe some of my basic philosophies on stuff. I'll end with this. If you're looking to grow your business, I would say check out growthgeeks.com. That's growth, Geeks, growthgeeks.com. We connect businesses with, growth marketers. You can buy their gigs on there. You can hire Growth Geeks, hourly to help you grow your business. It's a pretty cool way for you to really get a leg up on the competition and leverage, the knowledge and the experience and the skills of this group of people that already has figured out how to grow stuff online. So definitely check that out. You can follow us at Growth Hacker TV. You can email me, Bronson@growthgeeks.com. Or Bronson@growthhacker.tv. I can answer, either of those emails. And watch the episodes of growthhacker.tv. I think you're going to learn a lot of stuff just watching me interact with these really smart people. So anyway, this has been fun. Hope this is cool. You guys should be able to hit play on this and watch it at any time in the future. And so you'll be able to go back and kind of watch this and see the answers or the questions that I'm answering, all that stuff. So anyway, see you guys later. It's been fun. Keep being awesome.